Hook was 9 years ago. This country will never do anything to put a stop to this without radical change in who holds power. Yes. In before they somehow make this about gun crime in Chicago. Yeah, no, that's coming. Get ready for that. All of that. I mean, we know what they're going to say, but Texas Governor Greg Abbott confirms that 14 children and one teacher were killed in the mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde today. Governor Abbott also says the gunman is dead. I mean, yeah, third world country with a Gucci belt. It's just straight up. It's just straight up how it is.
An 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into. The shooter was Salvador Romas, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed according to my most recent report. He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher. Mr. Romas, the shooter, he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him. The shooter was Salvador Romas, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle.
Dude, I don't know what to say about this other than here it is. A secret tape made after Columbine shows the NRA's evolution on school shootings. Soon after the Columbine high school shooting in 1999, which was like one of the biggest, most famous ones out of these that are now commonplace, obviously, senior leaders of the National Rifle Association huddled on a conference call to consider canceling their annual convention, scheduled just days later and a few miles away. 13 people lay dead at a high school. Dude, I'm going to fucking like put every Turkish person in the chat that is like frantically and hysterically fucking coming in here to be like, dude, you have to cover Turkish news right now, on a rocket ship, okay? Gideceğim belanıza ha. Bilmiyorum Kılıçdaroğlu'nun ne yaptığını, Erdoğan'ın ne yaptığını. Şu anda Amerika'da 14 tane çocuk öldü Teksas'ta. Hala gerizekalı kalıp burada. Abi hemen bakman lazım Kılıçdaroğlu. Ölecek mi amına koyayım bakmazsam şu anda? Ha? Ne olacak hikayeye? Hikaye bir yere mi gidecek gerizekalılar? Salak mısınız ya? Oh. 13 people lay dead at a high school in Colorado. More than 20 were injured. Images of students running from the school were looped on TV, and the NRA strategists on the call sounded shaken and panicked as they pondered their next step into what would become an era of routine and horrific mass school shootings. Hey, guess what happened, actually? The NRA realized that school shootings are actually really good for them. You want to know why? Because in the aftermath of school shootings, the Republicans will say thoughts and prayers and say, don't make this political. And the Democrats will say, well, it's time to do something about gun violence. And then they will never end up doing anything about it. But in that fucking panic, you will see, in that panic state, people go and purchase more weapons. This is a known secret at this point. Okay? This is a known secret that you know who sells guns? Democratic leadership and Democratic, having a Democrat president. That's what makes guns. That's what fucking motivates people to go out and buy even more guns, because they think, oh man, Democrats are coming for our guns, and that fucking kind of attitude, that fear, has been whipped around over and over again. The only time where gun sales actually go up under a Republican administration is when there is so much severe unrest that people actually turn around. Wait, hold on. People actually turn around and you know, stockpile weapons like it happened during COVID. I mean, here, look at that. Greg Abbott. I'm embarrassed. Texas #2 in nation for new gun purchases behind California. Let's pick up the pace, Texans. This was all the way back in 2015. My mom's from Newtown, and I have family who work in the school system there. We were at Thanksgiving down the year Sandy Hook happened. The way Republicans and news media just fucking handwave all this shit is unthinkable and unpreventable. I'm fucking sick of it. Just fucked. It's just another fucking example of political apathy Dems have. I mean, yeah, still feel that way even now. This is like different times when shootings have happened. Think about that. Like Jordan, friend of the show, Jordan Ewell, replied on November 5th, 2017, in the aftermath of another shooting. And then someone else, climate crisis actor, replied to him on August 3rd, 2019, even now. And of course, the cycle will continue, as always. But given the shooter's background, from what we understand as a Hispanic person, I suspect that this is going to turn into illegal immigrants are responsible for this real quick.
To do that. And it really does boil down, as John Cohen said, you can certainly monitor social media the best you can, but that has its real limitations because of the number of people that are online. The key really is getting communities to tell you what's going on. I guarantee you there is information about this 18-year-old, whether it's at the high school or other kids that he associated with, or maybe even the teachers have picked up bits and pieces of information. But there's a thing called leakage where people spew out information that becomes very telling once you go back and look at a case. And they're going to be, attempting
Robb
to
Elementary
collect
is a
that.
public school located.
But
Is it Robb Elementary where the shooting happened?
We could sadly have this conversation every day. I don't even like saying that, but that's kind of where we are with firearms availability and the anger and rage that's going on in this country.
Here's the
really
overview of Robb Elementary.
When you get into subjects like immigration, minorities, people of color.
Here, let's take a look at the demographics of Robb Elementary. First and foremost, the first thing you should probably look to is this number right here. 3,335 out of the 4,406, 4,446 elementary schools. This school ranks 3,335th. The grades are 2 to 4. It's a public school. Total enrollment is 576. Okay. Here's the overview. Robb Elementary is a public school located in Uvalde, Texas, which is in a remote town setting. The student population of Robb Elementary is 576, and the school serves 2 to 4. At Robb Elementary, 29% of students scored at or above proficient level for math, and 25% scored at or above level for reading. 25%. Only a quarter of the fucking student population is scoring at or above a level of comprehensive reading and also proficient level for math. The school's minority student enrollment is 91%, and the student ratio is 17 to 1, which is worse than that of the district. The student population is made up of 50% female students and 50 male students. The school enrolls 84% economically disadvantaged students. There are 34 equivalent full-time teachers and 1 full-time school counselor. That's the reason why it's ranked 3,335 out of 4,446.
I agree with John. John and I both worked at the Department of Homeland Security.
I'm dumb. I'm gonna look dumb, but fuck it. Why does the academic performance have to do with the school shooting? The reason why I'm bringing up the demographics of the school and the academic performance of the school, where it is literally one of the worst schools in reading proficiency ranking, is because funding. That's how racism works. Racism is not when someone says, hey, you know, fuck you, and then use a slur. Okay?
And we've taken that research.
This is a school that is underfunded, like many of the underfunded public schools, especially in black and brown neighborhoods. Okay? That's what this is.
Deploying that training widespread in other countries. There are other places where they're doing this much better than
This is a consequence of systemic racism.
Community awareness to scale. And then we need a safe referral mechanism for people to call if they feel uncomfortable calling law enforcement.
How do you think America could effectively help prevent guns from getting into the hands of troubled youth and troubled adults? I grew up in a rural town in Texas, so I grew up around guns in a positive light, but even now I'm noticing that guns are not as great as need for American people was taught me. I'm a baby leftist. Just trying to learn more. I mean, guns are fine. Like I have never shied away from openly admitting that I enjoy firing weapons. Okay, I do, but they're also created with the express purpose of ending life. Okay, ending organic matter life. That's what guns do. They have no other purpose other than shooting someone and killing them. So, understandably, there should be a level of responsibility that you need to demonstrate when purchasing something like this. Okay? That's it. Obviously, there needs to be significant rollbacks. But America refuses to do that because the gun manufacturing industry is incredibly powerful. Small arms sales are pretty important.
Taking ownership of this concept of prevention because it can't get run out of Washington, D.C. This is inherently about communities.
The death penalty should be applied in all states so that criminals are afraid. What?
Of making sure that their communities are.
Yeah, dude. As in Texas? Is that what you're saying? A Texas that doesn't have the death penalty? That's why criminals are not afraid here? Is that what you're saying? Are you familiar with the state of Texas?
You see certain signs and indicators in a loved one or in a colleague. Ask how they're doing and get them help if you think they're not doing okay. Getting them help may actually end up saving lives. And we have got to be having a more frank conversation about this. This can't be all on law enforcement. There's too much of it. There are too many people that are struggling, especially after COVID, especially after the polarized conversations we were having in this country. We need to be engaging with people in civil discourse and getting people help.
The NRA and gun makers have successfully made gun ownership into a major part of culture and people's personalities. Absolutely. This issue is pretty much unsolvable.
You said it takes time, but John Cohen, as this country tries to get its act together, and it takes time, in the meantime, our children are dying. Our elders are dying in grocery stores, our children in the halls of schools. And here we have another mass shooting at a school with double-digit numbers.
That's right. And as Brad said, we will likely, based on the current threat environment, be having the same discussion within the next few weeks. It's, on the same weekend that we had the shooting in Buffalo, we had mass shootings in other cities in the country as well.
I'm curious to hear any possible defense of widespread gun ownership in a country where kids are literally dying what seems like every week to gun violence. It seems indefensible.
Communities across the country, as Elizabeth indicated, need to organize themselves. It's not so much was the person on the radar screen, the question we should be asking is the radar screen tuned the right way to pick up on an individual who may be in the community, who may be traveling down the path to violence? I think that there's a lot of work that can be done in that area, and whether it's an educator, a coworker, a student, a family member, or somebody who's seeing something online, we need to make sure people understand what are the warning signs. And then communities across the country have to take
the death
stock
toll has
of
risen
what
to
resources
16.
they have and what they can do to prevent an act of violence. I will say one other thing, and Brad said something that I totally agree with. We are an angry country, and in some cases, it's anger that's very individualized, and that can at times manifest itself in an individual using violence as a way to express that anger. But it's an anger. It's a flame of anger that's being fanned sometimes by our public discourse. And something that we could do immediately is to have our public figures, whether they be in government or in the media or in other parts of our society, work to reduce the temperature of the anger that's way too prevalent in our society, because our adversaries, they look at the societal fractures, whether it's on issues, as Brad said, on abortion.
Seems like they targeted a minority school. No, according to the details that are readily available immediately, and obviously it's a breaking news story, so you need to be very careful with your analysis right now. But the shooter himself was, I believe, Salvadoran, and it's not like this wasn't like targeted to like kill Hispanic children or whatever. The shooter is probably from the community, and the suspicion originally is that it might be that the grandmother of the shooter was there, but I don't know, and I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not gonna. The only reason why I'm bringing that up is because so that you understand, and you're not making like you're not launching ridiculous conspiracies. Not Salvadoran. His name is Salvador. Oh, I thought he was also Okay, his name is Salvador. Sorry. I thought they said he was. Maybe I'm wrong. I must have misunderstood. But I mean, he is Hispanic. The shooter is Hispanic. So that much is. Wait, what the fuck is going on? ABC News coverage is like going crazy. They already nuked his Insta, only had one selfie and some gun pics. CNN used over 3 minutes to list all cities and such events have happened. It took CNN anchors over 3 minutes to list all cities that have had mass shootings this year. It's only May. That's awesome. So far, there have been 201 mass shootings in the United States, and it's only May. Yeah, in 144 days that have passed by in 2021, there have been more than 200 mass shootings that have occurred in this country. The Republican talking points are going to be teachers need to be armed to prevent these shootings. Also, more anti-immigration laws and building the wall, just to let chat know what's going to happen on Twitter and YouTube. Oh yeah, the shooter is Hispanic. They're going to say that it's illegal immigrants, even if it doesn't matter what it is. They're going to say you need more guns, and they're going to try to do like a pilot program, like the one that they tried to launch in Florida, where they offer teachers subsidies for getting training on how to use a weapon, and try to make sure that like try to arm teachers, basically make schools like turn schools into an open carry or like allow people to concealed carry even. I mean, here this is Texas. Like Texas literally passed a fucking no license or training needed to carry a gun in Texas bill. They passed an open carry firearm bill this last year. Texas safeguards the Second Amendment. Today, constitutional carry goes into effect. Texans who legally own a gun are now allowed to carry it in public. No license or training is needed. Like, that's insanity, dude. The only country on the fucking planet where like our leaders are flexing that you can just buy a murder weapon without any sort of fucking the only country on the planet where the only country on the fucking planet where the governor is like, oh yeah, you can buy a murder weapon with ease without any kind of fucking training necessary. Isn't that nice?
But Shauna must make this very important point, because you talk about how Title 42 still remains in place, but we still see people coming across the border. It was only a year and a half ago when President Trump was still in office, and when President Trump was enforcing Title 42, people were not coming over the border.
That's so wild that he's saying this, because like Joe Biden's administration has arrested more people under Title 42 in this past year than fucking Donald Trump did. Like, that's not even, I mean, Title 42 is dog shit to begin with. It's still in place. His administration has fought back to preserve Title 42. A majority of Americans believe that Title 42 is good, unfortunately. And they are using that to fucking purge, like, literal lawful asylum seekers and stop them from claiming asylum and seeking asylum in this country without any sort of fucking legal process. It is completely inhumane and unjustifiable to do such a thing. And yet here you have this fucking monster talking about it like Joe Biden is not going hard enough on Title 42. It could not be further from the truth, but it doesn't even matter because ultimately, just the only thing that matters is like what you can cut as propaganda from this. Don't believe your lying eyes, okay? Don't believe exactly what you're seeing in front of your fucking eyes. Believe the party line instead. Democrats love immigration, and they are bringing in a flood of migrants into this country, and Republicans hate immigration, and they want to stop the flood of migrants from coming into this country. When the truth is super far from what they are suggesting. That both Democrats and the Republican Party despise immigrants and do horrific things horrific, unjustifiable things to immigrants in this country. They just don't care. And that two-tiered labor system, or that two-tiered immigration system, is specifically created in that way so that they can justify having a never-ending supply of an underclass that they can abuse and exploit, and oftentimes use against the rest of the labor force to drive down wages. That's just how it works. Now, of course, if undocumented immigrants were treated as human beings, allowed to participate in society, allowed to also join the same unions, and if unions were able to easily form in this country, then all American and all undocumented or now documented immigrants and their wages would go up. That's the real problem. But we won't let that happen ever, because the current way that it works with respect to like immigration is that it's better to keep a certain group of undocumented migrants and use them and abuse them and cast them aside when they want back pay, or like they want their wages back, or they speak out against sexual harassment, like the case in the chicken factory, Purdue. You just call in ICE on your own fucking undocumented migrant labor force. You get you get hit with a fucking slap on the wrist, like a baby fine that is built into your profit margins to begin with, and then you immediately go back and cycle in undocumented immigrants again, immigrant workers again to your chicken factory. That's how it works. The reason why agriculture is so cheap in this country, aside from the government subsidies, is because we have a never-ending sea of undocumented migrants that we abuse and exploit, okay? In May 2002, the Secret Service published a report that examined 37 school shootings. They had the following findings. What? 20 years ago, among the 10 findings, mostly involving mental health, bullying, etc., is finding number 8. Most attackers had access to and had used weapons prior to the attack 20 years ago. Salvador Ramos heist their Tater photo? What? What is heist their Tater? Do you think people are actually doing this on a major level? This is crazy to propose. Wait, what? This channel is propaganda drive down wages? Do you think people are actually doing this on a major level? This is crazy to propose. Do you think the two-tiered immigration system that has relied on specifically Mexican and Latin American labor since the Bracero program was like codified into the and then safeguarded in the 60s by creating another two-tiered immigration and like migrant status is not built with the express purpose of capitalist profit margins in mind? You think it's just something else? You think people are just like purely racist? That's why they're doing it? It's not. Aviva Chomsky actually has written extensively on the matter, one of Noam Chomsky's daughters, if you want to understand it further. I forget what the name of her book was, but that was really good on the history of how immigration became illegal. Undocumented is another. Undocumented is the name of the book. How immigration became illegal, where Dr. Aviva Chomsky, Noam Chomsky's daughter, talks openly about America's history and how they created this two-tiered immigration system. Starting off with, of course, the Bracero program. You know damn well that Chatter didn't know a single thing you just mentioned. My parents have been in agriculture since they moved here. They would tell stories of how when they were at work, ICE would be called and everyone would run away and try and hide. Why are we talking about immigration? I don't know. I don't know how we like switched over to immigration here, but here.
With Salvador Roma, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that has not yet been confirmed according to the most recent report. The governor there, Aaron, giving a few more details.
Part of the reason why we're talking about it is because the shooter is Hispanic, and I know that like in the coming days, this is going to turn very quickly away from like preventative measures that revolve around taking like gun safety courses or rolling back some of the deregulation around such matters in the state of Texas into, oh, it's Mexicans. It's just a Mexican person and they're violent and they're criminals, and that's why we need to stop that's why we need to stop the flow of immigrants into this country. So that's going to happen. I'm just letting you know. I'm precogging it. I'm pre-watching it. But that's literally what is going to happen. No, Abbott didn't say that with respect to like what is going on currently. He is going to say that though. They're all going to say that. They're going to say, here, I'll tell you a couple more things. They're going to say it's a hate crime when a white person does it, but it's like, but when a brown person does it, it's like, we can't say. Tucker Carlson's literally going to say, when a brown person shoots up a school, Democrats protect that brown person. When a white person shoots up a school, they say this is white supremacy. This is this is the fault of white supremacy. But when a brown person does this, the right can't even say that like all brown people are violent criminals.
And killed his grandmother. Authorities are now trying to go through his background to see what connection he may have had to that elementary school. They're also trying to run down social media and find any potential friends or acquaintances just to see if there were any accomplices or anyone else who may have had an inkling that this shooting was about to come, David.
All right, that is the major headline coming in right now. The suspect, the image of him just a short time ago made public. Again, an 18-year-old believed to be a member of that community and a student at the high school there. Governor Abbott, again, confirming that.
Yeah, that is the fastest mugshot I've ever seen on the news as well. That's wild how quickly they fucking slapped the mugshot on there. God damn, dude. The news is on it.
Now, sadly, the governor has confirmed those numbers along with just a few more details of what played out this afternoon. Let's listen to the governor now.
First, I want to tell you that what happened in Uvalde is a horrific tragedy that cannot be tolerated in the state of Texas. And there is swift action being taken by local law enforcement as well as the Texas Department of Public Safety. They obviously now know who the shooter was, and the shooter is no longer alive. Let me give you some details, and then I'll give you a summation about that. The shooter was Salvador Romas, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed according to my most recent report. He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher. Mr. Romas, the shooter, he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him. It appears that 2 responding officers were struck by rounds but have no serious injuries. The Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District Police Department is the investigating agency, and we will provide them and the city of Uvalde substantial investigative and patrol assistance. We're in the process of obtaining detailed background information on the subject, his motive, the types of weapons used, the legal authority to possess them, and conduct a comprehensive crime scene investigation and reconstruction, and identify and interview all witnesses and provide victim services and other support as needed. Victor Escalon is the Texas Department of Public Safety's South Texas Regional Director. He is on the scene, and everything that can be done will be done. In addition to that, it is being reported that the subject shot his grandmother right before he went into the school. And I have no further information about the connection between those two shootings. And the subject is reported to be a student, to have been a student at Uvalde High School, and is a U.S. citizen. Bottom line is this, however, and that is, when parents drop their kids off at school, they have every expectation to know that they're going to be able to pick their child up when that school day ends. And there are families who are in mourning right now, and the state of Texas is in mourning with them for the reality that these parents are not going to be able to pick up their children. Our job is multifold. First, to make sure we address exactly what happened at this crime scene, and then second, to make sure we take that information and do everything that is necessary to ensure that crime scenes like this are not going to be repeated in the future, and that we're going to be able to ensure the safety and security of our schools.
You were listening to Texas's governor just a short time ago confirming those awful numbers playing out this afternoon in Uvalde, a small rural town in Texas. Fewer than 20,000 people live there. Those numbers, 14 children killed, a teacher shot and killed as well. You heard the governor there talk about the suspect's grandmother also prior to this shooting, though the governor said, I can't give you more information on how those shootings are linked, though presumably he killed his grandmother and then headed to the school, though we'll wait for authorities to confirm that when they do come before the cameras this afternoon. As you've been watching with us throughout our reporting this afternoon, the size of law enforcement, the presence on the scene continues to grow. Our Maria Villarreal.
Here's some fun stuff. This is from Rebecca